IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we share the journey of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners.
Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories. Hope you're all well and keeping safe. On the podcast today, we host Muhammed Shihad, a heritage enthusiast who also happens to be the founder and director at Kannur City Heritage Foundation. Shihad takes us to this very underrated yet significant port city of Kannur and shares some wonderful trails his company does around the area. Let's hop onto the episode and find out more. So with that introduction, we'd love to welcome Muhammed Shihad, founder and director of Kannur City Heritage Foundation, a heritage walking and experience company that takes you around experiences and trails in Kannur, Kerala. Shihad, thank you so much for being a part of the Musafir Stories and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Saif, for inviting us to share our stories with your audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Shihad. Our great pleasure in having you on the podcast and exploring such a beautiful and culturally and historically rich place as Kannur. But the intro I gave about you was fairly brief and concise. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what Kannur City Heritage Foundation does?
Yeah, thank you. It's a very great honor to share about myself. I have been in Delhi for 12 years during my career as a student, and I worked in a company. There was a structural engineering background and all. And slowly I am becoming addicted to heritage and cultural things in Delhi. Then I realized the potential of my homeland. Then I come back in 2018. I started Kannur City Heritage Foundation, and from there our stories begin. We started to document first. So this all years we are serving our guests, our people and travelers in heritage and culture. So nowadays we are well known for our heritage walks conducting in different part of Kannur, and that is how we are going on.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really delightful to come across your handle on Instagram, and I was instantly latched on to all of the coverage you were providing to Kannur. And just for listeners who may not be very aware of where Kannur is or its significance, do you want to give a quick overview? Firstly, let's start with the geography, right? Can you tell us where Kannur is situated?
Yeah, Kannur, it's in northern part of Kerala, and it's a district. Kannur is a district itself, and it is called as Manchester of Kerala by British during their colonial time because of the handloom culture and the tobacco culture and so many other reasons of the disciplinary of the labor or something. I don't know the exact reason why it's become a Manchester of Kerala. And otherwise, there is a famous quote about Kannur, that's the land of looms and lords. So, which is very prominent in the social media handles and all. So, Kannur is always known for its cuisines and hospitality and everything. So, this is an opportunity for me to invite everybody listening from across the globe. Please visit us and enjoy us. Kannur is waiting for you all.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to jump into the conversation and find out more about Kannur and its beauty. And like you rightly pointed out, right, the land of looms and lores. Kannur has a very rich cultural history and heritage too, and we'll touch about the lores part of it later in the conversation as well. And it is situated in the what's historically been known as the Malabar region, right? The coastal region of Kerala, and forms a very significant or has been a very significant port or a harbor too in the past. So that way, very, very significant. Do you also want to give a quick historical context just in terms of the important people and rulers and how Kannur has been significant that way?
Yeah. During the olden days, Kannur is becoming a very important port for all the traders where they are seeking into spices and black peppers and teak woods as well. In olden time, we have ports like Valapattanam, Dharmadam, in so many different small ports. And the Mapilla Bay is one of the significant port in the olden times until 19th century. And there was a Kolatiri Rajas and the olden time there is Mushigas and so many old history was there. But significantly after the colonial period where we can see a lot of documented history after the Portuguese and Portuguese arrival and later Dutch and British. So there are specifically Chirakkal and the Arakkal was the very prominent dynasties were in Kannur in the recent history. So we can see a lot of forts and a lot of old palaces and architectural heritage buildings and structures across the coastal area of Kannur, which is related to trade, which are related to culture and old bygone era. So that's how Kannur is changing slowly to the modern stage.
Yes, Kannur, or also has been known as Canonore in the past, right? Like the English or the British name of this used to be Canonore. Is there any significance to that name as to how the name came about, Shihad, that you'd like to share?
Yeah, Canonore only changed in very recent in 1956 during the formation of all the states based on the language. Kerala is the state based on Malayalam language and Malabar, the part including the Kannur and all. Malabar comes together with Travancore and Kochi. Also, the little bit part of the South Kannada. We made a new state based on the language that's called Kerala. So before 1956, we known as Canonore, not Kannur. So that is the story behind, and how it is even before Periplus of Erythraeum, the very old documents, first century BC, this region known as Naura. It's a Latin word, and the origin of Naura always it's Noor. It's called by Arab traders or Arab travelers on that time. So Noor and Naura. Then later it's becoming Kanun Noor. Maybe in Arabic and Persian, Kanun Noor may be the capital of Noor. It's becoming Europeanized as a Canonore. Then that's how Kannur is becoming etymological. Yeah.
Yeah, some very interesting insights there, and thank you for sharing those with us, Shihad. And yeah, I guess there's a little bit of a peek into what types of walks Shihad does and what kind of details he provides during those walks as well, him and his company. Now let's jump into the importance and the background to Kannur itself, right? Starting with the important places that you take your visitors around during your heritage walks and heritage trails. Where do you want to start off with, Shihad?
With the support of our travelers coming to Kannur, we started most of the walks conducted in Mapilla Bay. Actually, Mapilla Bay is very ancient port and very popular among our even new generations. But they are all aware of the fishing harbor in Mapilla Bay now. Rather than a fishing harbor, it was an old port town and port city with many sailors and the wooden dhows and all passion ships were anchored and logistical transportation, maritime business. It was very important port on that time. Up to 19th century we can call. And later the changes, transformation happened in the shipping industry, coming with the motor-based ships and the modern ships and the harboring technology and all the new ports and new kind of constructions and all. And also the economical shift, paradigm shift happened in the transportation. It is affected. Otherwise, Mapilla Bay is very significant for the shipping industry in modern era too. So Mapilla Bay is our major area of telling stories with our guest. So in Mapilla Bay, we are telling all the trade stories and how the olden time people travel west to east through the Arabian Sea, and how what was the major ingredients they take from west to east, and also they are taking east to west. What they have major elements from the Malabar they are taking, including the spices and the teak wood, and how it will be, and what are the purpose of these all objects, and how it was transported on those time on technology, and what was the transportation model and all. And that was the basic stories we covered in Mapilla Bay. Along with these stories, we cover the word of Mapilla, how it's coming from, and who are the people. This like Mapilla is an identity, and how it will be like a caste or creed, or how it will transform into a community, and how these Mapillas now, who are the Mapillas living in the coast, and this kind of story we will cover through this walks of Mapilla Bay. And that is how we started. And later, slowly, we are expanding our walks in different part of Kannur. So, but even today, Mapilla Bay is our major selling story. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And okay, can you share some of those insights with us and our listeners as well? Shihad, starting with, the word Mapilla itself, right? It does have background and meaning to it. Do you want to share some of that with us?
Yeah, sure. Historically, there is very strong convictions about the observation went back to the olden era and the influence of Tamil language. The South India's oldest language. Tamil is the oldest language from South Indian region. So Mapillai in Tamil means groom. The groom is called Mapillai. So while having the maritime business with other people coming to Malabar region, the coast, they will have at least 2 months, 3 months stay back here in this coast. So it's not a 1 day or 2 day event. They are coming all the way from the west, and they're having a stay back here, and they will do other deals and all the business. So it is make sense that cultural exchange and material relations between the community coming here. Not only Arabs, Persians, as well as Europeans, and all those people are married or relate with the people from the local. So it's kind of a culture, mixed culture increase, and also obviously the mixed culture impact to children, new people are coming, and also the local people identify these children as Mapillas. So that is how these new communities emerge across the coastal area. And then later, these Mapillas are an advantage of a language and a relation of a foreigner coming here on that time. So it is an advantage. So that's why the Mapillas become more strong in the business in the coastal area. They are like a dominant community in the coastal area. Then they are the people who embrace Christianity during the Christian messages comes to the coast, and they are the community who embrace Islam as well later, the Islamic period. So Mapillas are the strong and very dominant community in the coastal areas of Malabar. So this is how Mapillas, are living here.
Okay, very very glad to know all of this background about Mapillas as well, because in my mind, I think the most recent influences, obviously, you relate the word Mapilla to mostly the Muslim community, right? Primarily Muslims of that region, but it's good to know the background that this is primarily the trading community, and over time they've like most recently accepted Islam and become Muslim. So that's just a misconception, I think, that these are just Muslims, right? They have basically the community that's been formed there over ages, and that's how the term also has become so popular.
Yeah,
and,
even before the arrival of Islamic message, Mapillas were there, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so very good to know that. I was aware of the Mapilla or Mapillai term, right? Like you said, the groom, the Tamil word for it. But I just never knew that was the same reference or influence that is on the Mapilla community here in Kerala. Really, really good to know that, and thank you for sharing that. And like you also rightly mentioned, the port, the Mapilla Bay, has been a center for a lot of trade for a long, long time, right? Goes back to centuries, and not just as recent as the Arabs, but even before that, right? Greeks, Romans, a lot of Europeans as well were visiting here, and even a lot of travelers, for that matter, right? Be it Marco Polo or Ibn Batuta, Fahien, like a lot of travelers also have mentioned about Kannur and their visits here, and this being the emporium of spices or spice trade. That's how Marco Polo referred to it as. So very, very significant place, and glad that your walks also start off at this Mapilla Bay, which is basically the gateway to all of this trade and stories and the rich cultural heritage of Kannur. So after spending some time here and sharing some stories, where do you head off to from Mapilla Bay?
We take people into the fishing harbor because currently we have a fishing harbor. So we will take people into fishing harbor and we will walk through the different part of harbor. According to the weather, we will walk around the shades, and having this all the bygone era, we will have a brief about where it's a wind coming and how it's coming to west and east, and the monsoon wind, which you already talk about all these travelers, Marco Polo and Ibn Batuta and all because of the geographical and natural, natural support. Otherwise, nobody can reach, because with the support of monsoon wind, they are traveling west to east and back east to west. So that is how this olden port were emerged through the business. So it's a support of geographical and natural things. So we cover all these things, the stories, and the other part of Mapilla Bay is in the northern side, that is St. Angelo Fort. So we have a specific walk on St. Angelo Fort about the fort story as well. So it's about three different influences of European influence, colonial influences. So it starts from the 15th century, late 15th century, start from the arrival of Portuguese and negotiation, and it started with colony, then the land they taken, then they started building a fort for their business, and how it will go through like 157 years they have been here in Kannur, and they utilize the fort and utilize the potential of the port as well for their business, and then trying to monopolize the business of Mapilla Bay. And during that whole time, it was not easy for them. The locals resisted well, and local make a join forces, aligned with Samudiris, Kolatiris, and all other nearby rulers on that time. Also, some other foreign powers took part this struggle against the fort which made by Portuguese, including Egypt, including Turkey, Ottomans, and all together they tried to get back the business in the Mapilla Bay, because Portuguese monopolized the business, and later with the support of Dutch, another European power coming to Dutch East India, coming to this side, and they helped, and their strategy helped, and we defeated Portuguese. Then again, Dutch made a deal with the local rulers, including Arakkal Royal Dynasty and all, for 100 years, and they managed and emphasized the fort for 100 years again. Then later, after the deal, Arakkal Royal Dynasty bought the fort back, and they coming back to their own control, in the complete control of Mapilla Bay. But unfortunately, after 27 years, another European power, British East India Company, they are coming to Malabar and started dominate their power in the trade and the business, in the economy. So they started negotiation. In the earlier stage, Britishers were very strategically with the Arakkal Royal Dynasty and other dynasties in Kannur, but slowly they have changed their setups, like everywhere they did. So then it becoming a main business hub of Britishers later. That is how I told you in Fort we are covering all these three different European colonial influences and stories, and through available evidences and available heritage elements in the fort premises.
Yeah, and a fairly large fort, right? At least in its confirm.
Yeah.
I know it's probably ruins of what's been left over last from the British, but initially this was built in 1505, like I said, late 15th century, early 16th century, by Francisco de Almeida, who was, I think, the first Portuguese viceroy in India, or Portuguese viceroy of India, as he liked to call himself. So it was built by him, and then obviously it switched hands several times between people with the changing political conditions in this area, in this region as well. A couple of things that caught my attention. Obviously, the fort is fairly large, like you mentioned, and there's a lot of barracks and cannons and tunnels and prison cells and all of those things that you could come across like you would in some of the other forts in the country, in the region as well. But one thing that stood out for me was apparently this was the fort that helped the Portuguese conquest of Goa, right? So, which is also fairly significant, as well as the Portuguese battles against some of the powers from the west, including the Mamluks, right? The Battle of Diu and others like that. So that was also very, very interesting that this actually supplied a lot of the necessities for naval supplies for those big important battles, especially the battle for Goa, right? Which was very significant. And I believe not too long ago, I forget when exactly, but there was a huge stash of cannonballs that was recovered from the fort as well, right?
Yeah,
Shihad?
it was in 2015 during the construction of a light and sound show inside the St. Angelo fort. So they recovered 38,000. It's a huge number. It's considered to the available numbers in across the globe. It is a very huge number. There is no such excavation happened recent anywhere in the world. So it's very old cannonballs we found inside the fort premises. Yeah, and a few of the balls displayed inside the fort for the guests and visitors, so they can have a look the balls which is recently excavated.
Yeah, so just a couple of interesting things I came across while looking this up. So just wanted to put it out there as well. And very, very significant fort, like you can see from a strategic perspective as well as how it supported some of the larger initiatives of the Portuguese. And having spent some time at the fort, where do you move on to from here?
Yeah, apart from this St. Angelo's fort, we have another colonial structure nearby, as it is, that's called St. John's Anglican Church, which is 1 kilometer away from the fort. So why St. John's Anglican Church is very significant in the part of heritage walks and storytelling? Because the structure was maintained as it is from this olden time, and it was about more than 220-year-old British church, which is primarily, it was a Protestants were there in the British Army in Kannur area, so they built for their own purposes, praying and all. And later Basel mission from the Germany, the Basel missions also have a significant role to establish schools inside that premises, and that's how the stories happening inside this church premises, including so many available documents, very interesting documents like burial records and their official meeting records and weddings and births and so many day-to-day affairs. They document it well, and it's kept as preserved and kept inside church for the guests and visitors. Recently, it was happened very recently, but it was very well maintained church, in architecture, in structure. They keep all the heritage elements even today. That's very important.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it's also different types of places and points of interest, although historically connected in some cases. But we saw the Mapilla Bay first, talked about the trade and how it was significant as a gateway to all of the spice trade in this region. We moved to the Angelo Fort, again from a strategic or military standpoint, especially for the Portuguese, how it was significant. Now the church, which is more from the British era, right? We're talking about that. So even in terms of the different points, those are also very diverse and very different from each other, while still connecting the dots, right? So I like that diversity about the walks too. And after spending some time at the St. John's Church, what other point in the vicinity would you like to take us to?
We are doing Arakkal Royal Dynasty trials in the slide down in the Mapilla Bay. It's coming again in the Arakkal Royal Dynasty. So we have an Arakkal museum. So we cover museum first. Along with the museum, we will cover the Arakkal Kattu, the exact dynasty's premises, including the private homes, mosque and palace ground, bell tower, and a lot of other buildings which is not well maintained but still have some heritage buildings beside the road, and as well as the museum is very small, very quick museum we can cover within 20 minutes. But the significance of Arakkal Royal Dynasty is very important. While we are talking about Kannur is the capital of Arakkal Royal Dynasty, and Arakkal not a big dynasty with a lot of land and territory, but Arakkal Royal Dynasty is ruled the region of Arabian Sea. They ruled Lakshadweeps for many centuries, and they ruled this sea for many centuries through their business and trade and all. So, and Kannur is their capital for very long. They started originally, Arakkal Royal Dynasty started from Dharmadam, the south part of Kannur, near to Talasheri. Then they moved to Kannur, Mapilla Bay, after understand the potential of the region and the geography and the harboring things and all, anchoring things and all. So that is how the Arakkal Royal Dynasty established in the Kannur city. And we cover the stories of Arakkal rulers and how they are connected internationally on the olden time. How what is the capacity of their multi-language capacity of Arakkal rulers, and what is the major things they transport from Kannur to the other part of the world, and what was the significant thing they imported as well, and all those stories covering in this trial, and including the significant of role of defending Portuguese from Mapilla Bay, and how Arakkal played the role during this colonial period, and how their business emerged and tie between the Dutch and Arakkal, and also they communicate with the Britishers earlier stage, and how they lost their lot of very important Arakkal Royal Dynasty important members during the Anglo-Arakkal War in Kannur, and so many things. So that is how the Arakkal trial was we covered.
Yeah. I just want to double click on this a little bit because they're also believed to be the only Muslim sultanate in Kerala, right? So that way too, Shihad, these guys, the Arakkal royal family and the Arakkal kingdom are very important to the region, right?
Yeah, because of we have more than hundreds of local dynasties before becoming a Kerala, because during this colonial period and all centuries. So Arakkal is one of the only dynasty from the Muslim community, and one of the very significant dynasty related to trade and colonial relations and transportation things and all. And I already told you, Arakkal not only in the land, they already have their hand in islands, including Lakshadweeps, and that is how. Even the Portuguese time, they are touched with a little bit in the Maldives as well. Maldives not part of India now, but Lakshadweep is Union Territory of India. Yeah.
Yeah. Lakshadweep and Maldives are in the news of late for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. But yeah, this is a kingdom that once upon a time ruled both of these.
These all small islands in the Arabian Sea, and it's very small in in particular islands, and living in many only very few islands are inhabited. A lot of islands are there which people are not there, abandoned and or vacant islands, including the Lakshadweep as well. So many islands are no people are there, only abandoned.
Yeah, for sure. So that way too, I was really fascinated reading a little bit about the dynasty. And the other thing I also came across, again, I did not get a chance to go deep into this, but I believe at some point they also did ally with Hyder Ali from Mysore, right? I don't know if with Tipu Sultan as well, but I came across that reference
No,
too.
you're true. Actually, why? Because Hyder Ali and the sultans of Mysore and Srirangapatnam, they are coming to Kannur because of everybody want this coastal connection to transport their own goods and their business. So the western coast of India, especially Malabar, is very keen into connection with the Europe and Arab and Persian and Turkish. So many important international vessels are coming on those times. So Mysore sultans were very close, especially Tipu Sultan was very close friend of French, and he was utilized that French connection to coming to the Mahi in Kerala, because the trade connection, everybody want that coast connection to the western world. So that is why Hyder Ali, they are tied with Arakkal on that time. Later Tipu Sultan as well have business, and even ups and downs in the connection, but there was a strong connection between.
Yeah. So a lot of things to unravel as we unpack this important place that is Kannur, right? And obviously the Arakkal kingdom and the Arakkal dynasty did play a very important role in that. And one other thing before I forget about the Arakkal kingdom, right? Ali Rajas and Arakkal Bivis or Bibis, right, as the rulers and the queens or female rulers, you could say, known as. They also have a very interesting system of passing on the throne, right? Do you want to touch upon that too?
About Arakkal, one of the major story which we can share with our guests, that's about matrilineal system. Because I don't know any other part of the world, Muslim community practicing matrilineal system, except Kannur and Lakshadweep, because of this influence of historical and traditional and economical reasons. Because people are much comfortable after the marriage, ladies staying, the bride staying her own home, and groom shifting to bride's home in our tradition of Kannur. So Arakkal also following the same things for many centuries. Due to this, Arakkal BVs having more importance than Arakkal Rajas, because Arakkal BVs children becoming part of the family, motherly system we can call Madhur Sakta in Hindi. So that is how this is the only region in the except very few areas I told you, Lakshadweep and very few other area. That is why I specifically call Kannur Muslims are following. Even today, we are talking on 2024, even today, Kannur Muslims are following matrilineal system. After marriage, bride stay at her home and groom will shift to bride's home. So that we call, in local language, we call Pudiapla, like culture, like Pudiapla means groom culture. And groom will get a permanent room in the bride's home. That's called Maniara, that bedroom called Maniara. It's like, that's a culture. Maniara culture is there. Even today, what I'm talking about, not any historical thing I'm talking about. I'm talking about the cultural thing, and very dominant cultural thing. And even today, people are following, very, very strongly.
Yeah, so the bidai happens for the groom. It's the groom who's crying on the day of the wedding, I think, leaving home. I'm just joking, but yeah, another important thing I
Yeah.
came across while looking up. And now we've touched a lot upon a lot of the important and historical aspects, be it commerce or trade or politics and the different colonial influences in the region as well. One thing I was keen on touching upon as well was the cuisine, the local cuisine, right? Given that there's been so many different influences, I'm sure the cuisine also has or shows that influence. Do you want to share a little bit about the Mapilla cuisine of the region, Shihad?
It is very big point that we are going to cover the cuisine. Cuisine is the great and big points about Kannur because heritage have two different parts. One is tangible heritage like forts and artifacts in the museum and old manuscripts and so many things are tangible heritage, but the food is intangible heritage and more significant thing which you can share your culture and your past, your history to the other generation, to the upcoming generation. So intangible heritage including the food and music and so many dance rituals and so many things, but foods are very important in Kannur. I can say that if you're visiting Kannur, you have to experience the Mapilla cuisines and the delicacy which is available in the different part of region, especially Kannur city, especially their culture. So that is how even we organize food trials in the region, including the biryani, the stories of biryani, and the stories of the snacks and all, because the culture make this opportunity, this advantage of cuisines, because you are staying after your marriage, after your culturally you are staying your bride's home, and there is no stories of fight between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. There is always in Kannur there is always a story or affection between mother-in-law and son-in-law, because son-in-law staying in the bride's home. And also I already shared the colonial influence and trade influence and the global influence which helped to experiment a lot of different taste and different recipes in the coastal region in the Mapilla homes. And even today we are very happy and blessed with the magical hands of our women and our homemakers, and that is how our experience enhancing every day with our guest. Otherwise only stories not make change. The major role in our experience, that is about the food. While even now I am talking to save with the support of the technology, otherwise I can make this conversation between us. There will be a big dum biryani and another platters of Mapilla cuisine and the dishes from different variety dishes in our culture. So that is how the normal conversation happening in our region, in our city.
Yeah, and also, do you want to touch upon some of the popular dishes from the Mapilla cuisine? I know, unfortunately, I can't taste them right now, but at least in my mind, I could devour on them and listen to you, and perhaps one day meet and dine with you and sample all of these. Any of the important or your favorite ones that you'd like to call out, Shihad?
Because of the time limits, I cannot go all the dishes. One of my favorite, I can say one of my favorite, that Muttamala in Malayalam. Mutta means eggs. Mala means mala, it's in English, I think, as a golden hair or golden garnish or something. But it's actually a Portuguese influenced dish. It's called Fio de Ovos in Portuguese. So you can find the same dish in Lisbon, Portugal, and you can find the same dish in Kannur. And it is part of all the feast, all the major receptions and all the major meetings in home, family meetings and all, including wedding ceremony and everything. It's actually made out of egg. And the egg have two parts. One is white and one is yellow. So we separate all these things white and yellow. And yellow we used to sugar and sugar syrup and flavored with cardamom. And that is a yellow part, and it's shaped to hair, golden hair, like a beautiful hair. It was very loose, and it also made out of egg shells, and we having a small holes in the eggshells. And after the preparation of the this sugar syrup and all, we use that eggshell itself to make this part. And the other part is white we steamed with support of the vessels, and it's like a cake, so soft, very fleshy cake. So after we served along with this cake, and the top there is a yellow part, so it will be muttamala, and it's very, very yummy, very tasty, very sweet, and it's served as a sweet dessert after the main course. So it's called Fio de Ovos in Lisbon in Portuguese. I'm not sure about the pronunciation, but that's how it's written in English.
Yeah, for sure. And even the biryanis of the region, right? I know we're speaking about Kannur city primarily, but Malabar biryani in general, or
thank you for bringing biryani in our conversation. Because a biryani is a universal recipe. Everywhere you can find biryani, wherever the traditional community lived in with their own royal privileges and luxury, because it's not easy to make a biryani in olden time, because lot of ingredients you need to make sure on your table before start your biryani recipe. So it was very big luxury in the olden time going to make a biryani. But nowadays everything on your market, as a globalization happened, and everything available in your nearby market. So it is very easy today to make a biryani. But I can take one point in this conversation for your audience. That is not about biryani, that is specifically about fish biryani. Because there are a lot of people are saying biryani's origin to Persia, or biryani is coming from there and here and there and there. But I can take this point that fish biryani, especially kingfish biryani or prawns biryani, so many fishes, skewed biryani. So this kind of culture is specifically very strong and very dominant in the Malabar region. I cannot say it's only in Kannur, but in the Malabar coast you can find the culture of fish biryani. So once you're visiting Malabar in Kannur, you can try fish biryani other than other biryanis, because all other biryanis everywhere in a different taste and different, slight masalas and slight changes of, ingredients, add-ons and all. But fish biryani is major contribution of Malabari coastal Mapilla people of Kerala, and it was very delicious and one of my favorite.
Yeah, for sure. There's no dearth of biryanis in India and in some other parts of the world as well. But the unique thing is like each region or each place has their own, and Kannur certainly has its own. And even Talacheri biryani, I keep hearing that it's very unique, and also has obviously the influences, like I said, through trade of Arab and Yemeni cuisines as well.
We do trials in Talacheri as well, because it's only 20 kilometers away from our Mapilla Bay. So Talacheri was a capital of British East India Company, and they made a fort there, and they established their administration, collectorate and banks, and all those things are there. So Talacheri is very important trade port city on that time. And in Talacheri dum biryani was very famous. And Talacheri people themselves saying the story of Kutch Memon influence in Talacheri. So Kutch Memon people were the traders from the Kutch part of Gujarat, and they travel to Talacheri, and they bring the idea to the Talacheri biryani, dum biryani into the society. That's why the influence of Kutch, they always telling about their stories about biryani.
And technically this is a part of the Kannur district, right? Even Talacheri is a part of the
I told you
district.
It's only 20 kilometers difference.
Yeah, for sure. So, so a lot of things to savor and sample while you're in Kannur. And obviously, one cannot forget the banana chips, right? I know even within Kerala, there's like different varieties of banana chips, but while you're in Kannur, definitely try them out. And for some of you who might prefer vegetarian dishes, there's obviously no dearth of that either. And the sadhya is very popular in Kerala, so make sure you try that out. But bottom line is basically Kerala cuisine is very unique, and even within region to region in Kerala it varies. And while in Kannur, you can sample some of the delicacies from this region as well. Now, as we start to wrap up the conversation and the different trails you do, one other very, very significant and prominent aspect of Kannur heritage and culture is the Theyyam, right? Do you want to give us and our listeners a little bit of a background about what Theyyam is, and if you do any trails that are focused around Theyyam, Shihad?
Yeah, sure. I would like to because Kerala becoming a big attraction to the travelers and the global tourism map because of Ayurveda, and I can say Theyyam is the reason for Kannur becoming an attraction for international travelers. Because what is Theyyam is? Theyyam is actually a ritual form performing in temples and small carve, because it's a very small kind of temples and small villages in everywhere. More than 425 different Theyyams happening in different region, different villages in the northern part of Kerala, like Kannur and Kasaragod district, and very few parts of South Karnataka villages also having this practice. So we call it as a Theyyam in Malayalam, and in Karnataka people call as Bodhakola. So these are the different in the language. Otherwise, the rituals and performance wise and costume wise are very, very big similarity. And I already told you there are many 425 different Theyyams happening in different times and different places. So Theyyam is an idea of human becoming God. It's a incarnation of a God. So this is kind of very folk ritual thing happening in this area. So many people nowadays, so many Europeans traveling to Kannur specifically for experience Theyyam.
Yeah, very, very high energy, very, very animated, and beautifully dressed up as well, right? The performers, the usually male performers that do this. And for somebody who's trying to relate, recently the movie Kantara became very popular, and that's the Bhutakola version of this, which is popular in parts of Karnataka, like Shihad was.
You said it, because of Kantara only. The reason Theyyam get a reason boost in the travel industry. So across the country, so many people are aware of Theyyam through this movie, and they are traveling to Kannur. And I also taking the opportunity in this conversation. I am also inviting everybody to visit Kannur for Theyyam once in a life.
Yeah,
please.
Absolutely. It's marvelous, and it's basically human taking on the form of a god, right? So beautifully dressed up too. Especially in Kerala, I see that a bit more, where the dress up like bright red colors, the face painting plus the other gear as well, bright red, right? So really some marvelous things to look at.
If you go in detail, all the different Theyyams are different stories and different design, different costumes and different patterns, and everything have many stories, like the where the colors coming and the natural color they're using and how they are putting and the dressing and the costumes, makeup and all the material they are collecting, all these things related to mythology and stories and all those. Very interesting, but it's very short time for discussing for that.
Yeah, we probably need another episode doing just Theyyam and its intricacies and its beauty. But yeah, thank you so much. And for somebody interested in finding out more about these trails you do, how they can sign up for it, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, they can connect through our social media handles and our website and our email IDs and our contacts. That's how the normally we do. And City Heritage, CITY Heritage. That is how we known in social media. And you can mail us that mail @cityheritage.in and www.cityheritage.in. That is our website. And also we have a communication WhatsApp number, that is +918377024979.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll make sure to include all of these links as well as contact details in the episode description and the show notes, so that way listeners can easily access and reach out to you. And I would highly recommend anybody visiting Kerala. Obviously, Kerala, it is a beautiful place and has a lot of things to offer, but we usually tie this only to maybe the houseboats and beaches and natural beauty and Ayurveda, but there's a lot more even beyond that. And if you're in this region, in the Malabar region in Kannur, certainly do sign up with Shihad and City Heritage to experience some of these marvelous stories and trails about Kannur and its historical connections, be it the trading connection to the colonial influences to the cuisines, right? So a lot of things to offer. I'll be honest, Shihad, my curiosity about Kannur grew after I watched Kannur Squad, Mammootty's recent movie. I know it doesn't have anything to do with Kannur that much apart from the squad being from Kannur, but I started digging in, and that's where I came across City Heritage, and I'm glad that we were able to connect, and my world was open to all of these marvelous things about Kannur. It's such a historical and such a significant place. So thank you so much, Riyad, for being on the Musafir Stories and sharing these.
I'm thanking you for this. It's a privilege and it's a great honor for us to communicate and share all these details through your platform. And thank you. I'm just inviting you to experience because then only I can express my gratitude with my hospitality and hosting and all these recipes I can share already.
Thank you, Shihad. So glad and honored to have you on the Musafir Stories. That was yet another great episode on the Musafir Stories. Make sure to show us some love by sharing the podcast with your friends and family. We are on Instagram and Twitter at Musafir Stories. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or the website. Follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.